Welcome to Move the Chains with Jonathan Rivers. Here's your host, Jonathan Rivers.
Let there be football. Welcome to Move the Chains. I'm your host, Jonathan Bam Rivers. On the MTC call sheet today, the best offensive players in the NFL. Now, people have been asking me, Bam, when are you going to do your rankings? When are you going to rank teams? When are you going to rank positions? When are you going to rank players? I'm going to get there, trust me, in due time. But I wanted to give you a little something of what you asked for. So I'm going to dive into the best NFL offensive players in my estimation. And the second down, you know what I'm going to do, man. I'm going to answer all your social media questions because social media never dies, and I love it. And my nonsense narrative, there are a large population of people that seem to think that teams that have losing records shouldn't host a playoff game even if they win their division. And I'm going to tell you why that's just nonsense. And the LA Rams are dangerous. Point blank, period. All right? All that and more here on Move the Chains, but you know how we do it. Let's kick it off with first down. All right, so what kind of goes into me ranking players, ranking positions, things of that nature? So I really just want to take a look at these players and what they've done on the field. I look at individual goals and individual records. I look at accolades. I look at performances. But I also look at team performances. I also look at the impact of what these players are. So this isn't just something that I've taken a year's worth of data. Now remember, some of these players have been in the league a decade. Some have been in 2 or 3 years. Some have been 5, 6, or 7 years. That will change. But I'm talking about, in my estimation, I'm going to give you the NFL's best offensive players position by position. And I think we need to start at no other place than the most important position on the field, and that's the quarterback spot. And in my estimation, in a lot of people's minds, the best quarterback in the NFL is Patrick Mahomes. So I want to say this. Patrick Mahomes has won 80% of his starts in the NFL. 80% of his starts. He's like 83-23 or what have you. It's crazy. Patrick Mahomes has won 3 Super Bowls. Patrick Mahomes has won 3 Super Bowl MVPs. He's been league MVP twice. He's led the NFL in passing. He's been player of the year. He's been to 7 straight AFC championship games as a starter and played in 5 Super Bowls. And all that, in my estimation, pales in comparison to the next stat I'm going to give you, and that's the number 2. The number 2 is what's most impressive when it comes to Patrick Mahomes. Everybody talks about his sidearm passing and his left-handed passing and the way that he's been able to use his legs more efficiently because he's had to with the Kansas City offensive line being in the situation he's been in the past few seasons, and he's always made it happen. But the number 2, you know what that represents? It represents the number of games that Patrick Mahomes has missed in his entire career. 2 games. Now, I asked my director this earlier. I said, you know, how many quarterbacks in the NFL have played more games than Patrick Mahomes over the past 7 seasons since he's been a starter? He's been deeper in the playoffs than anybody. And the fact that you've been to 7 straight AFC championship games, the fact that your body has gone through that wear and tear, the fact that you play the most important position in the NFL, and I know what a lot of people say, well, they protect the quarterbacks like crazy now. They do, right? And I'm not going to deny that. There are a lot of times when quarterbacks get hit and there are flags that are thrown that shouldn't be thrown. However, the truth of the matter is that other quarterbacks are in the same NFL, deal with the same protection that Patrick Mahomes does, and yet he's only missed 2 games. So if I were to take away a lot of the personal and individual and physical accolades that he's accomplished, the fact that he's really been an Iron Man on the field alone would put him at the top of a list in my estimation. But you add that to all the records that he's already broken before the age of, 31, 30 years old? He's kind of like the Michael Jordan effect. You know, you can never see a list where somebody in the NBA has done something and say, this hasn't been done since this guy, and it's usually Michael Jordan. Well, that's where Patrick Mahomes is. He is a quarterback of first in the NFL, and that's why I think he is first in terms of the best quarterback in the National Football League, and I don't think it's close, even with guys like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen right there behind him. All right, on to the next graphic and the next position at the running back spot. Saquon Barkley. Now, you may be saying, well, Bam, is this just, they just won the Super Bowl, right? Is this you just looking at Saquon Barkley, him having a record-breaking season and almost breaking the rushing record, going over 2,000 yards? Is that kind of where you are right now? Yeah. What else do you want me to do? I can also do this for you, though. I can also think back to a few years ago when the Giants made the playoffs and went in to beat Minnesota in the first round in the wild card. And Daniel Jones had his best season as a pro and ended up getting this huge extension, and Daniel Jones was average that year, ladies and gentlemen, average. Well, why were the Giants so good? Why did they earn a wild card spot? Why were they able to go to the playoffs and get to the divisional round? Because of Saquon Barkley. Because that's how great he is. And listen, I'm not even talking about the ability to jump over people backwards. Like, that's a highlight. I'm talking about the Barry Sanders-like qualities that Saquon Barkley possesses. The ability to hit a home run. Do you know that we are in a passing league in the NFL? Now, I've said this. My producer Josiah has said this. My director Ernest has said this. The NFL is still a run-centric game. I've tried to tell you guys that the running back position should not be removed. It shouldn't be devalued. It shouldn't be hated on because it's important, along with offensive linemen. I'll get to that later. But Saquon Barkley has a unique ability to give you the big play on the ground. 60 yards. Ask the LA Rams how great Saquon Barkley is. In the multiple meetings that they had against the Rams this year versus the Eagles, Saquon had, I think, about 4 touchdown runs of 60 yards plus. That's crazy. So if you have the ability to just hand the ball off and get it to a guy who can take you 60 yards, not only is that a touchdown, if it's not a touchdown, it's field position. And this is one of the best teams in football, and they're accompanied by one of the best quarterbacks in Jalen Hurts, but in my estimation, the best running back. He can also catch the ball out of the backfield. He is your typical 3-down back. He's the equivalent of a 5-tool player in baseball. He can block, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he can run for tough yardage, and he can blow you away. That's why Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the NFL, in my estimation. All right, back to the list. Justin Jefferson. Now, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. This and my offensive line that I'm going to go to next, this may have been the hardest choice for me to make because Ja'Marr Chase, his former teammate at LSU, was in my mind too. And I was like, man, Ja'Marr Chase is a dog, and Joe Burrow loves Ja'Marr Chase, and Ja'Marr Chase knows how to get open. He's strong, he's physical, he's a little bit bigger and bulkier than Justin Jefferson. But then I thought about the drop rate. And I'm going to tell you guys, this is something a lot of people talk about, but we talk about it here on Move the Chains. The drop rate for me when it comes to receivers is phenomenal. That's why I said a couple of weeks ago on the show, I think Chris Godwin is the best number 2 receiver because he has an extremely low drop rate. Ja'Marr Chase drops a lot of footballs. And I still think he's great. I think he's right behind Justin Jefferson in my estimation. But Justin Jefferson is a double-team beater. Now, there have been games when Justin Jefferson has been taken out of some games with only 3 or 4 catches because you roll the coverage and double him. That's just being a product of the position. Receivers can get taken away from that. But Justin Jefferson knows how to get open. He's a phenomenal route runner. He's got phenomenal hands, and he scores touchdowns. That's why Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in football. So, again, if you think Ja'Marr Chase is, I am not going to argue with you up and down. That is your opinion, and it would be a great one. But Justin Jefferson doesn't drop a lot of footballs, ladies and gentlemen. And for how lanky he is in terms of his girth, he gets the job done. And he, too, is durable. And durability, to me, matters. All right, now, tight end, George Kittle. My first thought, Sam Laporta's fire. Brock Bowers just broke a rookie record for receiving yards with tight end. But when I think tight end, I still think who can catch the ball and who can block. And I'm going to tell you what, if I put on a video montage of George Kittle just blocking, you can easily say he's one of the best players in football and the best tight end because he puts people in the dirt. He drives them through the end zone. And the fact that he is, let's not get it twisted, Brock Purdy's biggest weapon and has been since Purdy became the starter in San Francisco means something. He has been one of the key contributors of this team being to 2 Super Bowls under Kyle Shanahan. He is one of the guys, along with Trent Williams, right, along with Fred Warner, that make this team go. George Kittle is your throwback, prototypical tight end that can still catch the ball like tight ends in today's age who don't block. He is the best all-around tight end. He blocks, he catches the football, he runs after the catch, and he's a consummate professional as a teammate. George Kittle, in my estimation, best tight end in football. All right, and lastly, I want to get to the offensive line. 2021 is when the Detroit Lions made a decision to draft Penei Sewell. And I'm telling you, that's when their franchise changed. It's not when they hired Dan Campbell. It's not when they brought in Jared Goff. It's not when they brought in Ben Johnson to be the offensive coordinator. All those are contributing factors as well and huge reasons why this team is where they are. But Penei Sewell is a culture creator. He can play any position on the offensive line. He's their starting right tackle, could be their left tackle, the right guard, their left guard, or could be a center. If you put him in tight end, I think he'd be an all-pro tight end. This man has already been a 2-time first-team all-pro, a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's only been in the league since 2021, and he's only getting better. The NFL is now going to come out with a, I think, Protector of the Year award to celebrate offensive linemen. Way too late in my estimation. Penei Sewell, I promise you, if he doesn't win it, he'll be one of the top 2 or 3 candidates for that award every single year because he's that dang good. All right, when we get back from the break, I'm going to take the social media and answer your questions. Back when we move the chains, right after this. And welcome back to Move the Chains. Before we get to your questions via social media on Second Down, I want to take this opportunity, as always, to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for hosting Move the Chains. It's truly a blessing. Secondly, to all the fans, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or right here on the Sports Leader WXTX Fox 54, truly appreciate your support. And always to the best production crew in the business, shout out to the men and the women that make this show go. They do a great and phenomenal job, and that's why this show is where it is and it's going where it's going. Having said all that, you know what time it is. It's time for Second Down. All right, I'm always say it, social media never dies, and I love the fact that I get to interact with you and answer your questions. So let's go ahead and hit social media right now. What have I got? All right, will Shedeur Sanders be the Week 1 starter for Cleveland? He will not be the Week 1 starter for the Cleveland Browns. So for everybody who thinks Shedeur will be the starter, just pump your brakes. But Shedeur will be the starter for this organization for the next 10 years, in my estimation. All right, Joe Flacco's going to be the starter. There's no reason to rush Shedeur in. They've also got a third-round quarterback. They drafted Dylan Gabriel. They're going to try to give him a shot. Kenny Pickett as well. They're in this situation because they want to find the quarterback of the future. I think they have. They just found him in the 5th round of Shedeur Sanders. He won't start for Cleveland, but what he's done in OTAs, the leadership that he's exhibited, the person whom he's being is the person he's always been on and off the field. They're gravitating towards him. Kevin Stefanski sees it. I think the team sees it. The fans see it. He won't start Week 1, but I think he will be the long-term starter for the Cleveland Browns. All right, what's my next question? What may be the most impactful free agent signing in 2025? I think it's Nick Chubb to the Houston Texans. And I haven't heard many people talk about it. Maybe you have. But Nick Chubb going to the Texans is phenomenal. And it's phenomenal because it can be a great season for the Texans or it can be a bad season for the Texans. This is what I mean by that. One, Nick Chubb has been one of the best running backs since he's been in the NFL, even though he's dealt with tragic lower extremity injuries. But now that he's going to the Texans, what does that mean for Joe Mixon? So what I think it could mean is that I think the Texans could have one of the best 1-2 punches in the NFL in terms of the running back position, and that can only help what's going to be your third-year quarterback in C.J. Stroud, who has a wealth of talent around him offensively, especially at the wide receiver spot. DeMeco Ryans understands that it's going to be physicality that helps beat teams like the Chiefs, that helps beat teams like the Ravens, that helps to beat teams like the Bills. Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb in the backfield at the same time will save them both from injury, in my estimation, because it will cut down on their touches. But if you're Joe Mixon, when you left Cincinnati, you came to Houston to be the guy. I don't know how unhappy he is with it. I've read reports that he's not as thrilled as I would be in this situation, but it will be impactful one way or the other. Either Houston will take this by the horns and they will embrace a 2 running back system, or they'll move on from Joe Mixon, and that could be dangerous considering Nick Chubb has also been injured in his NFL career. All right, what's my last question here? What's the biggest rivalry in the NFL? It's Buffalo, Kansas City. And what I love about this, it really gives me New England and Indianapolis vibes from back in the day. And I can tell you this, Kansas City, I think, rarely beats Buffalo in the regular season. But Buffalo doesn't beat Kansas City in the playoffs. So I love the contrast and the dichotomy of that situation in itself. But you've got Patrick Mahomes, you've got Josh Allen. They both won MVPs. They've both been All-Pros. They've both been to conference championship games. The Buffalo Bills just haven't been able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs when it's mattered the most, but that's not going to stop them. And I love the fact that, like the Patriots and the Colts of old with Manning and Brady, this isn't a division rival. I like that it's not a division rival. I like that these two teams may not see each other until the playoffs, even though the NFL always puts them on the schedule to play in the regular season, which I have no problem with as well. I think this is the best rivalry in the NFL. They're AFC rivals, not division rivals, and the Super Bowl is going to be won by one of these two quarterbacks or played in by one of these two quarterbacks, along with Lamar Jackson, for the next 10 years in my estimation. All right, when we come back from the break, division winners with losing records should not host first-round playoff games. You're dead wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. Back when we move the chains right after this. Man, welcome back to the show. Now it's time for my favorite segment of Move the Chains. It's time for the nonsense narrative. If people could change the structure of the NFL playoffs, I'm telling you what they would do. I don't think they'd add more teams. I don't think they would give back to the number 1 and number 2 seeds getting a bye. I truly think that they would eliminate a division winner who doesn't have a winning record from having a home playoff game. And I think it'd be the worst thing in the world if you did it. Now, I can go back and tell you, look, you remember back in 2010 when Seattle was 7-9 and they beat the defending Super Bowl champion Saints in the wild card round? There have been teams with losing records that have won a division that have lost in the wild card round, a la the Commanders when the Bucs went in there and beat them when the Bucs won the Super Bowl. There have also been teams that have won. To me, that's neither here nor there. What I'm telling you is the hardest thing to do in the NFL is win your division. If you ask 32 NFL head coaches, the first thing they'll probably tell you is that their number one goal is to win their division. Why? Because it's hard to win your division because you play teams that know you so well. And I have the NFC South up here because this is going to be a division that a lot of people assume is going to be the worst division in football. And you may have a team with a losing record or a sub-500 record here. What I'm telling you is that even if you have 7-9, 7-10, 8-9, you deserve to host a first-round game because you won the division. And if you're so good, if you're the 5th seed and you're 13-4, whatever, come in and beat that round. Beat them. Because home games do matter. And I know you're a good team, but you don't have a home playoff game because you didn't win your division. I don't care what people say, whatever you're trying to change when it comes to the NFL playoff structure, you have to make sure that division winners keep home playoff games because winning your division is one of the hardest things to do in the NFL. All right, when we come back from the break, it'll be the final segment of the show. Back with the final drive right after this. And welcome back to the show. And now it's time for the final segment of Move the Chains. It's time for the final drive. Bro, the LA Rams are going to be a problem, man. I'm just here to tell you. And Matthew Stafford, one of the oldest quarterbacks in the NFL, can still sling the football and has one of the best play-action games with Sean McVay in the NFL. Listen, remember this was a team, man, that gave up so many first-round picks to the Detroit Lions just to get Matthew Stafford. And they ended up winning a Super Bowl. And even with no first-round picks for a multitude of years, they only missed the playoffs, I think, 1 year out of that in that transition period. And they've been able to rebuild this defense through the draft outside of the first round in a phenomenal way. I also want to tell you how bad this team is. And by bad, I mean phenomenal. Cooper Kupp was the MVP of the Super Bowl when they beat the Bengals. Cooper Kupp is no longer on this roster because they have Puka Nacua. And they got him, 6th or 7th round? That's how good this team is. This team now might be the best team in the NFC West, and it didn't happen overnight. And it also happened with them being void of first-round draft picks because of the quarterback that helped them win the Super Bowl. Hat off, man. Y'all did that thing, LA. Hey, like always, you can not only catch Move the Chains right here on the Sports Leader WXTX Fox 54, but you can also catch us on YouTube. Look at the YouTube channel right there on the screen. www.youtube.com/@move_the_chains. Subscribe to the channel, like, leave a comment, share with everybody that you know because we're here for it. Hey, another banger for the best production crew in the business. I'm your boy, Jonathan Bam Rivers, and always remember, build every day of your life brick by brick. And until next time, right here on Move the Chains, God bless.